Welcome to Faith and Freedom. For the next few minutes, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you as we discuss the legal victories and challenges to your fundamental freedoms and religious liberties. Faith and Freedom comes to you from Liberty Counsel, a civil liberties education and legal defense organization. Join us now as Matt Staver, the President and General Counsel of Liberty Counsel, explains the latest legal issues all across this country in the courtrooms of America. Liberty Counsel is winning the battle for your constitutional freedoms.
A new commission and a panel have been appointed to address issues relating to churches and nonprofit organizations. We'll talk about it today on Faith and Freedom. I'm Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel. Joining me is Matt Barber, vice president of Liberty Counsel Action. Matt, this is a commission that originated because of Senator Charles Grassley's investigation into nonprofit organizations, religious organizations. And so it's the Commission on Accountability and Policy for Religious Organizations. There's a total of 66 panelists that are divided into three different groups, legal and two other groups. I'm on the panel of legal, so I'm part of a panel of 23 legal experts that will be addressing some of these issues that Grassley wanted to address. And it gives us a good opportunity to basically give our input as to what our views are on some of these legal issues, including the issue of some of the matters that he wants to address would be housing allowances for various clergy, the current prohibition against political campaign intervention. I want to talk about that a little bit more because that'll be on our docket as well. And then also whether the rules for determining reasonableness of nonprofit executive compensation should be tightened. Some people, and when he was doing his investigation, he was concerned that some were being paid so highly that they were above where they should have been. And then also whether there should be penalties expended for nonprofits and their leaders who engage in prohibited activities here. So a lot of those issues are on the table. One that I'm very particularly interested in is the issue of what churches can do politically in nonprofit organizations, whether they can endorse or oppose candidates for political office.
And interestingly, as I know, Matt, you will be sharing with the panel, prior to 1954, the only thing that really applied was the United States Constitution. Churches could engage as if they were individuals and pastors as individuals in any kind of political activity that they so choose. And that's the way the Constitution clearly, if you read the writings of the Founding Fathers, intended it. But Lyndon B. Johnson was none too happy with the fact that a number of churches and pastors and clergy got involved and really created big problems for him and his.
Yeah, it wasn't even pastors at the time. It was actually a nonprofit organization that didn't want him to be the United States Senator.
Right.
So they opposed him.
So
they were able to do so.
In 1954, I think it was, the Johnson Amendment. What is the Johnson Amendment?
Well, yeah, he comes into office, and he's opposed by a nonprofit organization that wasn't a church. And to get back at them as a vendetta and to silence them once he does get elected to be the senator, he then adds this amendment to the IRS code. There's no debate or discussion on it, and it just sails through. And it's part of the 1954 amendment to the IRS code. Now, all of a sudden, pastors and churches and nonprofit organizations, they're under the same umbrella. And they can no longer endorse or oppose candidates for political office.
At the risk of losing their
tax exemption.
Right.
And now the pastor can do that individually, but not on behalf of the church. So churches and nonprofit organizations cannot actively, directly oppose or endorse a candidate for public office. Now, there's a lot of other things you can do. And in fact, before we even go beyond that, the interesting thing I want to make sure that pastors know, because I've written a lot on this, and I know you've got an article that's coming out. We've got a DVD that can be available for pastors and churches as well to give them information about what you can do. But not one church since 1954, not one church since 1954 has lost its tax-exempt status for endorsing or opposing a candidate. Yeah, not one.
Not one.
That is surprising to most people because there is such fear out there. First of all, the restriction, I think, is not proper in the beginning.
No.
But secondly, at the end of the day, no church has ever lost its tax-exempt status. Unfortunately, what happens, however, is churches and pastors back away from even those things that they can do under this IRS code, because they fear that even doing something related to campaigning, related to a candidate's views, related to voter guides or voter registration, somehow that will jeopardize their tax-exempt status. And, of course, that is bogus.
Well, in legal lexicon, there's a term, we say that something has a chilling effect. And that's essentially what the Johnson Amendment did, which it did an end run around the Constitution. And the design, I believe, was to chill speech, was to quell free speech. We see it happening in the churches, and people oftentimes misunderstand the nature of the church-state relationship. The Establishment Clause, and the term separation of church and state, that was Thomas Jefferson's words in a letter to the Danbury Baptists, promising that the state, there's a separation, a wall of separation protecting the church from the state. So clearly here, churches, by their very nature, are tax exempt. They needn't apply for 501c3 tax exempt status. So here, churches have gotten caught up and pastors have gotten caught up in this Johnson Amendment. It has been used, it really is a paper tiger.
It really is a paper tiger. And you're right. I mean, that's exactly what happens is it chills people's speech for reasons that are way blown beyond what the actual ability of this section of the ordinance or the statute can do. Because churches, unlike nonprofits who are not a church, that want to have contributions deductible on people's income tax, a 501c3, they have to file a letter with the IRS and get permission to get recognized as tax exempt, as a 501c3. Churches, however, by virtue of the IRS code, are exempted from that process.
Mm-hmm. The Establishment Clause protects
and
them,
historically,
right.
The reason is because of churches having the autonomy, and government doesn't want to micromanage churches and control them. So churches, whenever they form as a church, are automatically tax exempt. Mm-hmm. They don't have to file the form with the IRS. And the only case that we've ever had is one in which a church opposed Bill Clinton for president in 1992, and they took out full-page ads in the USA Today and the Washington Times opposing him for president and then asking for people to give contributions. That church then, after Clinton was elected, got a knock on the door from the IRS and said you shouldn't have done that. Well, the church didn't want to back off. There was no reason for the church to fight at that moment because there's no more future elections. The election's over. But the church really wanted to poke its finger into the eye of the IRS. And so they took on the IRS. And they ultimately filed suit against the IRS because the IRS took the church's letter. Church voluntarily had a letter, didn't need one. Mm-hmm. But when it went to the Court of Appeals in the District of Columbia, the court says, yes, the IRS can take the letter, but it's only a symbolic gesture because you haven't lost your tax-exempt status. Monday is different than Sunday, and if you don't endorse on Monday, you're fine. The church never got taxed for its contributions, never lost its tax-exempt status, and that's a church that took out full-page ads in 2 nationally distributed newspapers.
Well, I think this is a fight the IRS does not want to have in the courts because they understand that for a church, for instance, to have tax-exempt status, they needn't turn in their First Amendment liberties at the door. You know, they don't need to waive and check their First Amendment liberties. Those First Amendment religious liberties still apply despite what some 1954 Johnson Amendment may claim. And speaking of paper tigers, pastors need to be aware they're going to get threatening letters from groups like Americans United for Separation of Church and State saying, if you dare speak about politics from the pulpit, you will lose your tax-exempt status. Again, Matt, how many churches since 1954, how many churches ever have lost tax-exempt status?
Let me ask you this. If you have
zero.
somebody at the plate and they've got a 0 batting average, they've never hit a ball, are you going to be afraid that they're going to hit a home run? Yeah. And that's the Americans United. They've never been successful on any of these complaints, never in the history of America.
Yeah.
So I would just say, give us a call, throw it in the trash, don't worry about it. There are clear parameters that churches can do without even coming close to the IRS restriction. You can do voter registration. You can send out and hand out information regarding the voter guides. You can preach on biblical subjects. We have a lot of material for you at Liberty Counsel on our website. You can go to Liberty Counsel's website, lc.org. And go to the section that talks about churches and nonprofit organizations. There's material there you can print out right there on the computer. Bulletin inserts that talk about what churches can do, and also quotes from David Barton about what pastors and churches can do. Historically, pastors have been the fuel of the American Revolution. Their sermons were the fuel of the American Revolution. They were the ones that spoke to the community, to their local congregation about the political issues of their day. it's time that we regain those callings, and we have information for you that you can give out to your pastor, also a DVD. Go to Liberty Counsel's website, lc.org. Call us at 1-800-671-1776. You can also ask for the book Take Back America. That's the book Take Back America, and our Patriot's Handbook on American Liberty with the Constitution, the Declaration, and others. And make sure that you can not only pray, but help to support Liberty Counsel, because we are a donor-funded ministry. You can give a contribution by going to lc.org, or you can text us at 20222, and in the subject line put down LC for a $10 contribution.
You have been listening to Matt Staver of Liberty Counsel. Our hope is to encourage and inspire you to stand up for your faith, family, and freedoms. We can accomplish a lot when we work together. Get informed and get involved today. Sign up for our free monthly newsletter, The Liberator. We will send it out to you free of charge. Stay informed with our Liberty Alert email update. Just click on the website at www.lc.org or call us at 1-800-671-1776. Tune in next time to learn more about your rights right here on Faith and Freedom.